Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Excuse me. Today is Friday, February 15th, and the celebration of gold and dust is gone, so we're back to just playing for gold and rolling to try to get 60, 80, or maybe 100, even 120. I think there's like one quest out there you can get that's 120. Or you can get Watch and Learns. Of course, Watch and Learns or Challenge of Friends give you packs, and packs are worth 100 dust, or at least they used to be. It's been a while. Yeah, pack is worth at minimum 100 dust. Maybe if you spend real money, you can get a slight discount sometimes, but that's about it. So, where are we here as far as anything? We've got cards that are marked new that aren't new, still glitched. And what else? Okay, so last stream we ran out of hard drive space. I hopefully won't run out of hard drive space here. It would be really ridiculous if I did. Apologies to anybody on the chat. I was moving my phone over from the Samsung Galaxy S7 to the Samsung Galaxy S9, and boy does that transition need to be easier. You would think just moving from one to the other should be 100% perfect. Everything copies over perfectly, and it just doesn't. And that's Samsung, which has a program called Smart Switch that it's supposed to make it work, and it still doesn't work. It is still by far better to, if you can, and I don't think you really can on Samsung's, it is still by far better to root your phone, use titanium backup, back up your entire computer, your cell phone, and then restore it all, than it is to use Google Backup or Samsung's online backup service or Samsung's direct device-to-device switch. Like, because they're just things, and they're important things too. It's like the authenticator apps, two-factor verification. That stuff doesn't copy over, which is sure probably for security reasons, but also a total pain in the butt. I have like two things that are on my authenticator. I have no idea what account they go to. So I basically have to keep my old phone in somewhat working order in case 5 years from now, what are we playing? Rogue, Warrior, Hunter, Mage? We have to get everything done, so let's just start with Hunter. And we're still trying to win and get on this. So yeah, like 5 years from now, I might get to some website and it says you turned on two-factor authentication, and I'll be like, oh man, I gotta go find this old phone. So I'm gonna have this old phone, get its battery to about 50% and then turn it off is about the best you can do. You want it at 50% because if you leave it at 100% it might drain the battery faster. At least that's my understanding of it, although maybe at the end of life it is better just to leave it at 100% and turn the battery off and see what happens, but probably not. I hunt alone. But I've got it all set up now. The S9 has a ridiculous curved screen that I immediately had to hack. Now you can't root the S9 to my knowledge, but there is apparently a way where you can give special permissions through using a computer typing in command in the ADB debugging program. So I had to plug the phone into a computer, basically copy and paste it, or this command, into a DOS-like console, and then have the have it give special permissions to a program that would then allow this this app to change the resolution on the screen. So there's about 50 pixels out of a odd amount of pixels. It's like 1090 pixels, so it's not quite 1080, or it's a little bit over 1080 if the screen is curved, and so I've dropped like down to 990 just so the screen does not show up at all on the curved edges. Playing Hearthstone on a curved screen in particular, as I was just looking at my secondary Hearthstone account, was a nightmare. Imagine all of these cards curved and distorted down here. It just looked horrible. And the curved screen looked horrible in every instance that you would use it in. The only time it looks alright is if you have a desktop, you're looking at the desktop, and there's blackness on the edges. So you don't see that how bad it is. And so, yeah. Now, maybe there's some kind of selling point to a foldable screen. I don't think so. I think phones are getting ridiculous. They're getting too expensive. The S10 is like $1,000 phone right now. It's really silly. Cell phones at this point have as much as you could possibly do on them, I think, and they just need to become more commoditized and cheaper, and I'm sure no cell phone developer really wants to do that, because you're not going to really add a new feature there. You'd have to be able to sell people on, like, does this cell phone have the new NVIDIA GTX mobile 2060 in it? And cell phones are nowhere close to that. Nor is there a gaming community for cell phones that really would make that make sense. So, like, nobody is really gonna make a cell phone game that has to use the best of the best separate GPUs. Battery life would be horrible for any phone like that. So really they just need to get simplified. The S9 is way too tall. It's 20%, in my opinion, taller than it should be. Watching a YouTube video in the portrait format is ridiculous because you have like 80% of the screen taken up with descriptions and comments and stuff, and you can't even see the screen for most of it. I have pretty big hands, and when I hold the phone, my thumb still will not stretch out and reach with a one-handed use the top 20% of the screen. So yeah, it's just total ridiculous. Ridiculously too tall. Only makes sense if you're scrolling websites. Only makes sense if you're scrolling Facebook, and you just are doing it at such an extreme amount that you actually believe you need such a tall screen. It doesn't make sense in widescreen either. There's thick black lines when you put it in horizontal mode to watch a video that way too, so it's kind of a waste one way or the other. Will this make it any more expensive than this? I don't know. Never really figured out the rules for the road on these things. Alright, let's end the turn. On the good point, the S9 has really good audio as Dolby Atmos, and it sounds excellent. I am extremely happy with the fact that I can just turn on the media volume to like 75% and clearly hear and understand what is being said whereas in almost every previous cell phone I've had to go pull out hacks and turn up the audio as much as humanly possible just so that there's a slight chance of me being able to understand what is being said. Alright, there's a 12.9. Other things in the S9, it's like I got a 64GB version. I think that's probably the default. I would think, otherwise maybe I paid too much because I really didn't need 65GB built-in internal. My SD card only has like it really only has 32GB, and it wasn't particularly full. Let's see. Okay, how are we gonna do this? This, so we can do explosive trap, or we can do that. Let's go ahead and do this. Beast have charge, and stealth and poisonous. Sounds interesting. So kill that, and end the turn. Yeah, other things on it though. It's just a smaller phone. It's too small. Phones have always gotten too small now. The battery could have been probably double just to make the phone thicker. It has like fingerprints and heart rate monitors. I'm not gonna ever use or set up any of that. The bezel at the top and bottom is practically non-existent. Although it's not doing the notch thing, which I'm fine with them not doing the notch thing. I don't see any real reason that should become the way things are done. That you really don't need that. And I assume it just is faster. And wow, I lost. I thought I might actually win there. So yeah, I assume the CPU is faster. That being said, oddly, Facebook has not been posting. It like seems to lock up the CPU when it's uploading. I don't know why. Like, seems really strange that Chrome would be the thing. Yeah, everything else seems to work just fine. One of the apps I use, I'm still using an old version from several years ago because the new version was horrible, and basically the company was bought out by a different company and they changed everything for some stupid reason. But yeah, I would say, if I'm not a tech reviewer and not getting into the real details here, USB-C seems like a good thing. As somebody who has broken like every micro USB connector in the past probably 10 years, USB-C is proving itself helpful, at least where I don't have to try twice to plug in the phone. And in just general ideas of maybe that connector won't break. So I'm happy for that. I would say, look, you should compare the S9 Plus versus the S9. Like, the S9 Plus might not have a curved screen. It might have some better stats. Like, I was trying to get out cheap. Frankly, I didn't want to replace my S7 but the backlight at some point had started shorting out, and so it was pretty obvious that what was eventually going to happen is either the backlight was not going to work at all, and I wouldn't be able to see the screen at all, or it'd be extremely difficult to see the screen, or it would short out and just cause major damage to other things. It did give me an opportunity to clean up some files, deleted some backups that maybe I don't have any other backups for, but I guess it doesn't probably matter. Get rid of some duplicate files, get rid of some apps that I'd been sitting on since the last time I had a rooted phone, that there's kind of no reason to have these apps because they just say, well, you don't have root, you can't do anything. Let's see.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's the frustration of the S9. Now we have a ton of video game news to talk about, so I don't know why I decided to talk about all that, other than I'm just talking about what's going on in my life. Let's keep people involved. The person who was chatting on all of my videos, he tried to chat on one message and then I tried to heart it, which is something I've learned, and I should have learned 4 years ago plus when I started my channel. Is just you should heart every message on your YouTube channel and let people know and get notifications that you're reading their messages and you appreciate it. One of his messages seems to have been removed, so I'm hoping this isn't the case that he just got flagged as a spammer, although very possibly he actually is a spammer. But he was certainly putting a lot more comments on my channel than anybody else, and I was appreciating that, certainly. In the last month, we've gotten like 7 new subscribers, and we're at 319. If we got a big inrush of new subscribers, I don't know. I mean, if it just snowballed really, really well, maybe by the end of the year we could be back up to 1,000. And that being said, I read today on Reddit there was somebody who was putting, I guess, their piano lessons on YouTube, and their channel got demonetized for, quote, repetitive content, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I've never heard of anybody complaining about repetitive content on YouTube. So I am left very much confused on that. It's like, why all of a sudden are you upset about repetitive content? That's been the thing that a lot of people have built their entire channels around, is just repetitive content. Good Mythical Morning, very, very arguably repetitive content. Like, all they do for the most part is eat weird random food. So, like, I don't see the problem there. I could see my channel being claimed as repetitive content. I could see any gaming channel being claimed as repetitive content. Repetitive is this incredibly subjective term unless you're going to hold it to a extremely strict scientific, like, definition and say only duplicate exact content is excluded. And duplicate content, I get it. Like, YouTube has always said this video can't be monetized because it's a duplicate of another video. So yeah, I get that idea, but that has never gone to the level. Do I have enough to win here? I think I do. But saying things are repetitive is just another one of those wiggle worms to demonetize people. Now, I also saw comments on Reddit, and I don't know how well this is true, frankly, that demonetized videos get ads run on them, and then YouTube gets all of the revenue from those ads. I don't believe that is the case. I think if that is happening, that is grounds for fraud and monopolistic injunctions, and because that would be insane completely. Now, what might be happening and what might be leading to confusion is that some other third party is claiming copyright and ownership of a video, and then they are getting the 70% of the proceeds from the revenue, and then YouTube is still getting its 30%. If YouTube in any scenario has done something where they are getting more than their 30% cut, that's straight up fraud at that point.
Job's done.
Let's start talking about the news, I suppose, because this is gonna take a lot of time. A Nintendo Direct happened. We'll talk a lot about that. I'm playing Overlord 2. Overlord 2, last night I got stuck in this long second act stealth mission after doing a long second act kind of solo mission. In Overlord, you control these minions kind of like Pikmin, and so the fact that there's a section where you for at least 30 minutes to an hour don't have any Pikmin, don't have any minions to control, changes the game drastically. And it's been like that for probably 3 or 4 hours, because there was a section where you're controlling the boats and doing basically a water level. Water levels always suck, and then you go from the water level to the solo mission, and then you go from the solo mission to a stealth mission. It's like the game is all over the place with its gameplay mechanics, instead of just giving you what I really want, which is well-designed levels, and the level designs are terrible, and just good general gameplay. But I was trying to get on a roll. It's been really hard, and I don't know if it really is Overlord 2's fault so much. It's just been really hard to sit down, and maybe that's because I'm doing 30-minute episodes. Maybe there's a different reason. But it's really hard to just keep my butt in the seat and continue to play the game. So often I'll do a 30-minute episode of Overlord 2, then leave the area, eat something, go to the bathroom, watch something on YouTube. Often it's like an hour and 30 minutes of YouTube content. My YouTube backlog has just grown longer and longer and longer. So yeah. And of course this was the problem at the end of last year too, is it's just not really feeling like making a lot of content and being lazy.
Justice is mine.
Let's see. Oh man, was that a weapon that would have triggered a death rattle? Forgot what you're supposed to be doing with this deck to try and win. Alright, so we have a ton of news. Let's go through it. It's Friday. I doubt too many people are gonna come on board and chat or watch us at all. Because the video was corrupted last stream, by the way. I'll have to upload like a 720p stream, I think, Like, I don't think, even though YouTube serves a 1080p stream, it seems to me, and maybe there's just a mistake here, or it hasn't processed, that they will only give me a 720 video back when I say download that MP4. So yeah, that sucks.
My hand is too full.
But really won't matter too much. It'll just be one random episode of Hearthstone that airs months from now. I need to finish Overlord 2 and upload all the Hearthstone and schedule things. So GameIndustry.biz has a news article. Tencent joins Netmarble consortium in its Nexon bid, bidding for the largest Korean game developer, expected to begin February 21st. So I really don't understand how this consortium really would take place. Is it they'll buy Nexium and each of these companies will then own a part of that, or will it be that there will be this new merged company? Okay, so here's the death rattle I'd have to put up, and then this guy needs to be triggered twice, and then I can do some spells. But if this guy dies in his next turn, that sucks. So yeah. Yeah.
Reality.
It seems like people know what's going on because they seem to play directly against that concept all the time. Alright.
Justice is mine.
So the Nexon stake is 8.87 billion, and it's said to be too much for any single Korea firm to afford, hence Netmarble's consortium plans. So basically they're asking Tencent to give them cash in a way of helping them buy this new company. And it's kind of like the not quite getting a loan, but instead getting a loan on the shares of another company. Alright. This might work.
Justice is mine.
If I can get this on the field and have it survive long enough, it might work. TechRaptor has an article. The Burnout spiritual successor Dangerous Driving is coming in April. So is this from EA? Because Burnout is an EA thing. No, it's from a company called Three Fields that was founded in 2014 by the Criterion founders Alex Ward and Fiona Sperry. They're the studio, with the studio from its inception when EA moved Criterion off the Need for Speed series. Over the last 5 years, the studio has put out a number of games including Dangerous Golf, Lethal VR, Danger Zone 1 and 2. So, yeah, I kind of know that developer. I've seen some of their properties. Alright. So, this, and then this, and then Geez, I should try this and see if this works, but... Then this. And then that. And then
Justice
that.
is mine.
Job's done.
In the turn. Yep. So this racing game, Dangerous Driving, looks like it's a driving game with a large emphasis on car damage and crashing. We've seen several of these before. So with 2 turns, can he do enough to win? Or did I kill enough minions? See, this is that annoying 2-turn win that is basically impossible to defeat. Yeah, there's no way. He could do this 6 more times. So even trying pretty hard to win there, you still lose. Alright, let's go back and see what else we could play as. Guess we're looking for 3 victories with the Rogue Warrior. It doesn't seem like Rogue's gonna work. Let's try Rush Warrior. Gamatsu has an article. My Girlfriend is a Mermaid launches February 28th in the West. This is a visual novel. The animation doesn't even look particularly great. I have heard of a couple of these My Girlfriend is a Mermaid stories. So, like, not all of them I think are from the same writer or anything. It probably makes more sense in Japanese because, heck, Japan is an island. They do have a long history of nautical fare. More mermaid stories make a lot more sense. Whereas a landlocked country very possibly wouldn't have too many interesting tales to tell as far as mermaids go. Speaking of mermaids, there is a problem that I have run into with Overlord 2 in the fact that they're just doing the same gag over and over again. They introduced like these fat female tiny small fairy creatures early in the game, and then I'm like, okay, so the gag is that your mistresses that you can find are skinny and of a body type and basically blondes with big boobs, and that's the gag there. And then everybody else is gonna look either kind of nondescript or is this a Murloc? No. Or extremely fat. So they introduce that, and then they introduce these elf women that are fat, and they all look like they're wearing like pasties or very loose bras. So it's 360-degree cleavage you're getting here, but they're all designed to look ugly. And then the Empire women are shown, and they're also fat too. So I imagine what happened is they literally only have 1 body type or 2 body types for females that they animated, and it's just an unfinished game. But what this has had an effect on is they're just not varying up the character styles for the women. Now, to be fair, there's literally like 1 kind of Empire soldier. Well, 2 kinds. There's big shielded Empire soldiers and small shielded Empire soldiers, but it's the same body type. There's like 1 style of male elf that you're fighting a lot. There's 1 style of Empire general that you're fighting a lot. So the game is definitely just like using the same body types for everybody. but it's really noticeable when characters are supposed to be love interests, and I guess it's tit for tat, but it doesn't really feel like it's tit for tat. When the Empire generals and the governors that are being depicted, the Empire governors are being depicted as large fat people, it's just doing the fat joke, I think, too much. And so I was playing this game and I'm like, yeah, this game is pretty old, but by modern standards, there's a lot of things you could have done with different characters. You could have gone with the Bayonetta body type, tsundere personality type. You could have gone sportish. You could have gone bookish. You could have gone boyish. Like when you look at it from just a general understanding of the different personality types in anime harem stories, like there's a lot you can do there. Certainly, instead of just saying, oh, all of the females that you're supposed to hate and attack are fat and disgusting, and all the females that you're supposed to love and want to take as your mistress and overlord to which you can have multiple mistresses. Thank goodness for that. If you're going to be an evil overlord, you might as well act like an evil overlord. It's like all of those mistresses just kind of like big boob blonde. It's just boring.
Move quickly.
Physically. I guess I'll finish up the story. My girlfriend is a mermaid. Mermaids, by the way, are big and fat too. That's the reason why I was talking about that. It's coming out for the Nintendo eShop February 28th in the West from Sekai Games. So it's a visual novel coming out for the Switch. I would kind of like to see what the Switch storefront looks like, and how, as more and more visual novels get added to it, how those are sorted or displayed or promoted. Because yeah, I could definitely see kids getting on the eShop and going, what's this visual novel, and it not being age appropriate or of any interest, or maybe it's all hidden deep in the depths of the eShop. That is also a possibility. We have a game on Steam, Far Cry New Dawn, the standalone DLC continuation of Far Cry 5. It's kind of an interesting promotion idea, where if you make a numbered version of your series and people don't particularly like it or do like it, it doesn't really matter, because the next game in the series that is its standalone DLC will always have a non-numbered version. So you open the door that people the legitimate people, not the video game journalists complaining about Far Cry 5 for not attacking conservative values or conservative Trump supporters, but real people that just kind of found Far Cry 5 potentially repetitive and just stale, which I think is probably a valid argument. That's what they've been selling with the Far Cry series from the beginning. People that don't like that might very well still jump into New Dawn and say, well, this might offer something different. Meanwhile, people that loved Far Cry 5, which I heard at least a decent amount of people say that they did love it, can come into Far Cry New Dawn and continue their enjoyment.
Be thirsty.
Whenever a minion takes damage. Alright, so let's do that. Game attack. Far Cry New Dawn is already rated very positively, of what looks like 162 reviews. It's $39.99 unless you buy the deluxe edition, which then it is $49.99 unless you buy the bundle with Far Cry 5, and then it would be $99.99 unless you buy the bundled Far Cry 5 Golden Edition with New Dawn Deluxe Edition, which is $129.99, which is the true value, I think, of a video game these days. Is you have to buy the Gold Edition of Far Cry 5 and the Deluxe Edition of Far Cry 5 New Dawn. There might be some reaction to the complaints of the politics in New Dawn, but by having twin African-American women in dreadlocks, but I don't think that's going to satisfy any of the journalists who are just complaining because that's all they ever do is complain. So I would still very much be on the perspective, you don't go to Far Cry looking for a great story, you go to Far Cry for that Assassin's Creed style of gameplay where you're going to have a lot of missions and a lot of things you can do and shoot. Now, there might be some slight problems with playing New Dawn or Far Cry 5 too close to playing Rage. Geez, I am just not winning either one of these. I think we're gonna have to switch to yeah, we're gonna have to switch to the practice mode because I'm just gonna lose and fall out of ranked 19. So I'm gonna put Far Cry New Dawn in the fall list. Probably could put it in the wish list. It probably wouldn't be a big deal there. We're still certainly at a point where actually I can just put it on the wish list, come to think of it. There's really no reason to not just put it on the wish list. I'm still haven't committed to playing any of the Far Cry games. Alright, so we need to play casual. Let's go back here and try this. Man, I definitely in the next deck rebuilds need to have a good warrior and a good rogue. Let's see, this is a shaman deck, right? Yeah. Next we have on Steam Zoo Constructor, which is probably like a Zoo Tycoon clone. It doesn't look terrible. Looks pretty good. This really will just boil down to, does it come out of early access? Is it valued well? Right now it's $17.99 discounted.
None can escape my fury.
So this is the perfect style of game to go on the fall list and just see if it turns out to be something people really, really love. And then I'd have to think about whether I really want to play that style of game, because I'm not sure I'm really too into tycoon style games. Let's see what this is. I'm looking at a TechRaptor article called "Coverage Club Escape the Gloomer Proves that Redwall's Lost Legends Need to Keep Being Found." So I think this is probably an older game, if I was to guess. Let's see.
Reporting for duty.
Whatever this game is, or whenever it came out, though, it looks like it's a mostly text-based game. It's on Steam, but yeah, doesn't look like anything of any real interest. Let's go ahead and do that. Gamer Sutra has an article, enjoy a 93 video tour of id Software while Doom was being made. And interestingly, I have a video here link that says Privacy Badger has replaced this video button. Interesting. So apparently Vimeo, Privacy Badger being one of the plugins I have for privacy and anti-tracking, and apparently Vimeo tracks you through its video buttons before you even click play. Interesting. So maybe I'd get around to watching this video, but probably not, so I just want to point it out in case anybody is interested. Although there is definitely a problem in the video game world and fandom in general where people are talking about things from the past and just never stop talking about things from the past. I wandered onto a video talking about something I think called Moment 37 from EVO, where in an EVO Street Fighter fight somebody countered like a Chun-Li high kick super attack where he had to press like 12 very precise button presses, or he had like 12 seconds to counter this attack every time, and it's like super high level play for that version of Street Fighter. And then the video was talking about how now Street Fighter has gotten so dumbed down that you can basically just beat on the controller and counter that attack, which like that's not good for high level play, certainly. And even trying to make your game more accessible to new players, if the game really is to the point where a professional cannot reliably beat somebody mashing on the buttons, you've gone too far, in my opinion. As somebody who doesn't play fighting games, like I should get my butt kicked if I was playing against a professional in any fighting game that is well balanced. Meanwhile, there probably should be a way for me to play on easy in maybe a versus CPU only mode and still have a decent amount of an experience. Where did I get on that story from, though? Why was I talking about that? I've lost my train of thought here. Well, let's just continue with the news, I suppose. GameIndustry.biz, Tencent in talks to bring Apex Legends to China report. Respawn's latest would join Fortnite and PUBG in online giants stable of Battle Royale titles. Speaking of Battle Royale titles, you can read the rest of this GameIndustry.biz article if you're interested. Yeah, the Nintendo Direct happened, and we'll talk about it eventually. In the Nintendo Direct, they announced Tetris 99, which is a battle royale for free on Nintendo's online service, where you play Tetris against 99 other people. It's pretty cool looking, actually, for a free game in particular. Now, how quickly does that audience evaporate and dry up? And does it become impossible or extremely difficult to have 99 people to play? Is the question it's gonna run into. Also, because it's on the Switch and the Switch doesn't have any like cell phone coverage or anything, if you're playing this on the go, where you very well might likely to, if you're tethering your cell phone, and in the United States tethering your cell phone, I don't think it's just by default allowed even now, without some extra fees that they'll try to cram on you.
Justice is mine.
So, yeah, there's some extra potential expense there. What are we trying to do? We can do this, and that doesn't matter, but my cards are running out. I'm filling up my hand. So yeah, it would have been nice. The Nintendo Direct almost guarantees the end of the 3DS, 2DS, all of that. Because if there was going to be any more focus on a separate mobile device, they wouldn't be making a remake to the Legend of Zelda A Link's Awakening on the Switch. Which the fact that they are making a remake of that game is amazing. I remembered what I was talking about. By the way, I really don't care about Tencent bringing Apex Legends to China. Although Resident Evil 2 right now is not allowed to be sold. It's banned in China, and people are selling it in a sneaky fashion.
Think.
Okay. Preparation. And do that. Do that. And
justice is mine.
Yeah, but what I was talking about earlier was people being focused on old games and old fandoms. And certainly in anime, as a elapsed anime fan, like talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion, for instance, that's like 10, 20, 30 years old at this point, and it's like, it's time for us to kind of move on. Go ahead and play this.
Justice is mine.
I should have killed that, actually. But I watched, I don't know if I mentioned this, FLCL, Progressive and Alternate, and boy, those continuations of a series that never needed a continuation, those were bad. I think I talked about that on Wednesday though, so it's kind of silly to bring it up again. All I freaking need is Malygos. If I had Malygos, I think I could win here.
Monsters behind you!
Let's do that. And let's do that. See, summon a 1/1 copy of a minion in your hand. I don't have the minion in my hand. Jeez, you really cannot win here.
I can wait.
Moving on, Tech Raptor has an article. Fantasy Flight Games announces a scoundrel-centric Star Wars Outer Rim. Interesting. Oh wait, this is a board game though. This is not a video game. I would have saw. Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I would have seen more news if there was a new Star Wars video game that was announced. Alright, just switch between Rush Warrior and Rogue until we get cheap victories. Next, we have a game on Steam called Creepy Vision that looks like it might be an asset flip, or it might be artistic.
Versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine.
You know, I can't immediately reject this game as just being an asset flip game or a weird game that is an asset flip that's just trying to sell itself because it's weird. It's $4.99. This is one I will give a follow to, and we'll see what people have to say about it. That being said, I do need to make a decision on when I'm going to go through the follow list again and do some cleanup, because I probably should have done it during the Chinese New Year Lunar Sale, and I didn't. It just did not even occur to me. Next we have a game on Steam called Arena of Shayalo. It looks like Arena of Shayalo. It looks like a card-based, like deck-building game, but MS Paint graphics. And it's gonna really fail in the fact that there is this new Ruby deck-building game we'll talk about later. This game is free, so the price is right, but it looks terrible. So yeah, I can, even as a card game, I can ignore that one. Let's see. Let's do this. And this. Gamma Sutra has an article. Ubisoft isn't worried about an influx of new games stealing Rainbow Six Siege's thunder. Quote, when there's something new on the market, especially shooter games, Rainbow Six Siege players go and explore it, then they come back. Now, I would argue, I don't feel like there is too much thunder for Rainbow Six Siege. I think that there is a player base, certainly, and a fandom there. I don't know how much of it really exists, or if it's particularly something that is going to grow in any way. Rainbow Six Siege, the way it came out, the way it sells itself, what it actually is just always this very off-putting offer to me, in particular as a multiplayer only game. It does kind of offer something different, so I can see if you just don't want to play Fortnite, if you just don't want to play Call of Duty or Battlefront or Battlefield or anything, Rainbow Six Siege offers itself as a potential different offering. Let's see, just gonna hold on to this. Right. But yeah, I really wouldn't call Rainbow Six Siege as a thunderous success of a game. Honestly, I wouldn't really call any of the shooter games these days as thunderous successes. One of the things with my new phone, that the clock app looks like it's slightly different, so by default I can just have a 30-minute timer, a 1-hour timer. I don't have to scroll back and forth to set the timer. So like now I know we've been going for an hour, so after, if we can get like one more victory, well, I guess we don't need to go get one more victory. This is kind of the perfect point to end. TechRaptor has a similar article. Ubisoft reports, quote, solid performance in Q3 results. Assassin's Creed Odyssey still bringing in players. So I imagine Ubisoft is just reporting its Q3 reports, and they're just saying, yeah, like, things are good, and that's kind of good for them, I suppose. Ubisoft under threat of being acquired by either Vivendi or Viacom. Never can get those two straight. But we've seen a lot of other companies either have really good results like Activision Blizzard and still lay off people because it didn't meet quote-unquote expectations, and we'll have a little bit more news about that later in the stream. Or you've had a lot of Japanese and other people just reporting bad quarters in general. Anyways, I guess this is as good of a point as any to end this recording and break it up, and then we'll switch over to the European account. So as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Where have your journeys taken you?
Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, February 15th, and we are on the European account. We're going through probably a large amount of news in a slightly relaxed format. We're done with the expansion. I suspect we are probably 2 weeks, if not fewer, away from a new expansion coming out. If they were doing special tavern brawls for 3 weeks straight, I bet at the end of those 3 weeks we have a new expansion. Let's re-roll this. So play demons and win with the druid or rogue. Okay, we've already done the tavern brawl thing, so we wouldn't want to do that again anyways. So come in here and play Zoo Warlock, and let's see if this can get us some victories. So let's go ahead and start covering the news as fast as possible. There's a lot of games that were left over. We may still end up, since the daily quests are not super difficult looking, we may end up having some left over even for Monday, which probably isn't a bad idea. Having a little bit of a backlog always makes some sense. But it has not been something that we've really done in the past. Alright, so there's one demon. While we're doing that, let's go and play that. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Alfonso Ribeiro, R-I-B-E-I-R-O, has been denied the copyright to the Carlton dance. Alfonso Ribeiro being the actor who did the Carlton dance in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and quite frankly, even if the dances were copyrightable, which they aren't, and the Copyright Office has come out and said this directly, it wouldn't have belonged to him anyways. It would have belonged to the production company of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which was more than likely CBS. So this was a really late claim or attempt to the claim of copyright that would have failed for that point, probably too. I don't know how much the U.S. Copyright Law Office frowns on trying to claim something you did decades prior, but I bet by quite a lot. But yeah, this is part of what feels like a growing effort to kind of harass Fortnite into giving them money, and Epic Games is certainly not having any of it. So the subtitle here on GameIndustry.biz is U.S. Copyright Office says routine is too simple to be protected by law, which this is what I had heard from lawyers to only one person claiming to be a lawyer I saw on YouTube even began to make an argument that it was copyrightable, and quite frankly I'm not sure I trust that person's opinion. And you of course can always find a lawyer that will agree with you. There's another person who did the exact same thing, trying to copyright a different dance that Fortnite undoubtedly stole. Like, spiritually, Fortnite's in the wrong here, but legally they're within their rights. And it was an incredibly dangerous concept that you could copyright a dance at all, because then everybody doing the flossing dance potentially would have been sued in every commercial or YouTube video where somebody's flossing by Epic. So if dances were copyrightable, it would be a nightmare. Like, so much. Now, choreographed dancing can be copyrighted, but it has to be a long choreographed thing. So, like, an entire song that is written and choreographed for the Nutcracker Suite, like, that probably could be copyrighted. But a simple portion of that, no. And that's a good thing. It says in this article, the main reason that the cartoon is that the cartoon is, quote, a simple dance routine, and therefore, quote, not registerable as a choreographic work. I'm not sure if anybody would have really benefited besides the actor if that had been able to been copyrighted. And that's inherently the problem with copyright in general, is that you're giving this legal monopoly of what often are simplistic ideas or concepts to one person, so that they can make money off of it while disenfranchising the rest of all of society. Copyright originally started from the idea of somebody writing a book and then somebody literally copying the entirety of that book and selling it and making a profit without doing any of the thought or thinking. And at that point, that seems fair. That a book, an entire novel, should be copyrightable. Should a haiku be copyrightable? Maybe. But as you get less and less words and less thought, like if I go, roses are red, violets are blue, my feet stink, and your mom does too, is that something that, like, if I had even said that correctly, is that something that should give me a legal monopoly to say that stupid rhyme and make money off of it and sue anybody else who repeats it, versus whatever value that stupid rhyme would give every 2-year-old on the playground who says it? Like, so yeah, we may have another story of another person, of if I have the name of the other person who was denied, but yeah, it's just gonna keep happening. Like, trying to copyright dance routines. It's something Epic probably talked to their lawyers about and knew they could get away with. Which is fine. This next story is slightly concerning to me as a lover of the Bayonetta series. Gamasutra has an article. The Bayonetta 2 game director, Yusuke Hashimoto, has left Platinum Games. Let's go ahead and do the web peek so you can see his name. Yusuke Hashimoto There we go. And there's Bayonetta's butt.
A clever concoction.
Didn't mean to put the mouse right over behind, but there it is. Now, he was the Bayonetta 1 producer and Bayonetta 2 game director. The way I see this could be a couple different things. It could mean that perhaps a spiritual successor of Bayonetta would be made and playable on PC because Bayonetta 2 was funded by Nintendo and it's probably never going to PC, and Bayonetta 3, which is being worked on, may not really be going anywhere. Let's face it, Bayonetta 1 probably was the only Bayonetta game that ever needed to exist. Not every game series, not every movie series needs a trilogy. So, a spiritual successor might be a better experience, quite frankly, than just a continuation of doing the same thing over and over again. On the other hand, if you take the negative perspective here, this might just be the ruination and the end of the Bayonetta series and Bayonetta 3, and it might not be good. This article goes on to say, it is unclear why Hashimoto chose to leave Platinum after 13 years. 13 years, I think, is a fair enough reason alone to leave him the job. But he does suggest, but the veteran developer suggested he won't be hanging up his hat. Quote, the memories I made during my 13 years at Platinum, working with dozens of talented individuals on Bayonetta, Bayonetta 2, and Star Fox Zero are priceless to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got word that there is no Bayonetta 4 or Bayonetta 3 is cancelled, and we haven't been officially told of that yet. Or that he wasn't particularly going to work on Bayonetta 4. That Star Fox Zero game in that list certainly sits in the craw of my mind. I don't know if I use that phrase right. Where if you did not want to make a Star Fox game, which very possibly you didn't, and Nintendo was partially funding your company, so you had to make a Star Fox game, that could be 3, 4, 5 years of your life working on something you have no passion about. Or it could be the other way around. He may just not be passionate about Bayonetta anymore. Or ever. There's another quote here. Let me take the opportunity to share my thanks with everyone who worked with me, supported me, or played my games. I hope to take the experiences I gained at Platinum and use them on whatever I work on in the future. And it almost sounds like he was fired, which would be a hard thing to do, certainly in Japan. That being said, there's a slight concern for Bayonetta 3, but not a huge concern, frankly, because no man is an island, and with the funding of Nintendo behind it, if Nintendo really wants a Bayonetta 3 to be made, Bayonetta 3 will be made. And whatever the game director is bringing, very possibly will not be in danger of could be replaced. Let's see. We'll jump through this. Gematsu has an article, Tales of Krastoria, Aegis Luna, and Orwin, screenshots, Krista, Alba, and battle systems detailed. There's a lot of Japanese words there, so let's do a web peek. Where is my mouse cursor? Here it is. Yeah. Aegis, Luna, and Orwin, screenshots, Crest, Albany, and battle systems detailed, due out worldwide in 2019. And so yeah, Game of Sutra in particular, kind of known for doing these little hype posts There is one screenshot that caught my eye on this as I'm scrolling down here. There's what looks like a pirate anime girl that has like a tattoo on her tongue that she's showing off that looks kind of strange. Or she's eating something. I'm too far away from my screen to be 100% certain. Let's do this. Let's do this. And do that. And do that. It's a victory. So yeah, here's the screenshot. She's clearly pointing to her tongue. I see like black lines. So she's either eating something or showing off. Of course, she's also conveniently leaning over and showing her cleavage. That was 15 demons and some victories, moving us up into rank 19. How are we on the other thing? 3 games with the druid or rogue. I'm gonna stick with druid because I really wasn't doing much with the rogue before, although odd rogue is different than the rogue I have on my main account. As for what that game was, it's probably tells a story as a JRPG, so we'll have to see if it's good when it comes out and where on the list of the many JRPGs to play it lands. As far as how many I actually want to play, I'm not sure. Speaking of not being sure of games, we have a game on Steam called The Expedition, which looks like it's kind of just an asset flip, turn-based RPG game. Although I'm not sure if it isn't really just an infinite fight game without any actual running around an overworld or anything. Every screenshot seems to be kind of like it's trying to do a Darkest Dungeon mentality. This is 59 cents discounted. Yeah, it's kind of like Darkest Dungeon if Darkest Dungeon had nothing but fights. So yeah, that doesn't interest me. Game Sutra has the same article. Fortnite Dance-Off, Fresh Prince star refused copyright on the Carlton dance. That's a better title than what was listed before. Alright. Just keep trying to keep people on the field. Gamatsu has an article. Hard West is coming to the Switch on March 7th. It's due out alongside the Scars of Freedom add-on. Hard West, I believe, looking at this screenshot, is that XCOM-ish top-down strategy game set in the West. Yeah, it launched November 2015 and it's on Steam. So yeah, there's definitely a case that more and more games are coming to the Switch. It sounds like the Switch summer lineup might be particularly full of games, and then there probably will be more announcements for even more games when the summer happens. So this could be the year of the Switch, assuming that something else doesn't happen or it doesn't just flood the Switch market with terrible games. There's a pretty even-handed balance between visual novel eShop style games coming out on the Switch and slightly older
The light protects me.
PC ports or ports from PC games to the Switch. And so far we haven't had a long list of games that are like ported extremely badly.
Job done.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Extreme Truck Simulator, which looks bad. Like, this green is just like no texture at all, and then there's just like these blocks and walls of texture. Let's see, look at this video. You hit this jump and then you see all these walls, and it's just random assets all over the place. This is $1.97 with a 1% discount. It's just like terrible.
The scourge will devour all for the wild.
So moving on. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Improbable hires the former EA DreamWorks executive as the new CTO, Chief Technical Officer, I believe that would be. So Lincoln Wallen, W-A-L-L-E-N, was the CTO for EA Mobile and DreamWorks Animation. So what a CTO actually does is probably just in charge of the technical divisions, which, depending on your company, might mean a lot of things, might mean just one small IT department. Let's see, there's a quote here. I've seen how distributed compute and the cloud can disrupt entire market sectors and create new platforms and business models, Wallen said in a statement. Improbable has the potential to power this type of change in its game industry. So this really feels like it's probably a little too it's a little too inside baseball, it would be my guess. Well, I'm about to lose. See if we can save ourselves.
For the wild.
Yeah, I'm not gonna win that. Improbable apparently owns Spatial OS, which is the game that caused some conflict about a month ago, it feels like. It says in this article, the most high-profile release to date is Bosa Studios' Worlds Adrift. So, Improbable makes Spatial OS the most high-profile game. To use it is Worlds Adrift, which I've heard of Worlds Adrift, but I could not describe it to you at all. Let's try Odd Rogue, I suppose. The ESRB has a rating listed, let's see, for Five Nights at Freddy's VR : Help Wanted for the PlayStation 4. It's rated teen for fantasy violence. So there apparently is going to be either a new compilation of a Five Nights at Freddy's game on PlayStation VR, or just a new Five Nights at Freddy's game. Now, I really would have to question whether Five Nights at Freddy's has any more relevancy. But I imagine, you know, if Jacksepticeye or Markiplier or whoever, the big streamers that were playing the Five Nights at Freddy's games, came back out and said, hey, we've got a new one of these, it probably would still get some coverage and some play. Although I question how many people actually play the Five Nights at Freddy's games versus just streamers playing them for cheap content. Man, and if you want to talk about repetitive content, let's talk about all those Fortnite streamers just playing Fortnite. Same thing over and over again. The Bad Gamer 28 has second Rydo on the chat. Hey. So the Bad Gamer 28 is the person who's been commenting on all the videos he sees on my channel, getting a lot more comment activity happening on my channel. Very much appreciated. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Million Arthur Arcana Blood is coming to the PC this summer. Apparently it's a fighting game, although I've never heard of this. Million Arthur Arcana Blood. Oh man, I hate that card. We've got a screenshot here. It was announced at Evo Japan. Looks like it's a Japanese fighting game of some sort. I'll watch this trailer and see if there's anything interesting. Game launched in Japan on November 27th in arcades and then came to the PS4 on November 2018.
So many.
But apparently it's not super well known to me, so it's probably not well known to a lot of people in the West. It says it's a Square Enix game. I see an anime boy with red hair in a 2D fighting game with a flaming sword. I see an anime girl with a bazooka with purple hair. I see an anime girl with a eye patch. I see an anime guy with red hair. Some of these characters look slightly familiar, so I probably have seen some of these characters before, but that does not really mean anything to anything. So like if we came over here and we just replay this, since this is just a trailer, and I'll just move the mouse over it, we can kind of show off. Moon Arthur Arcana Blood is coming to Steam. Wildcat Arthur apparently is a purple girl. Let's get the mouse out of there. That guy looks familiar. The rest of these characters don't. Thief Arthur, I know that character from that Tag Team Female Frenzy game. But yeah, so interesting. Speaking of SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, it's coming to the PC on February 21st. That's the all-girls tag team fighting game that was kind of maligned a lot. I don't know if it really deserved it for what it was. It's not really designed to be a top-tier professional Evo Sport fighting game. It's clearly designed to just be a fan service cheesecake game. Here we can do a little spotlight here on the characters. You can see it's going for silliness. It's going for cheesecake. It's not particularly explicit. Even at that. I'm surprised that it is coming to the West though, because there's been so much pushback as far as having any kind of cheesecake, just lewd style games, particularly anime girls being lewded or being drawn in a lewd fashion, where, you know, video game quote-unquote journalist advocates complain about that. And it's like, oh, that's sexist. You can't have a fictional character drawn in a sexual light, even if the character themselves is that type of character and would depict themselves that way. Very puritanical way of thinking. It's being published via NIS America in the West, so now that that's coming to PC, that is an interesting thought. By the way, Senran Kagura Burst Renewal has a bit of DLC that apparently is accidentally for free, and the developers go, yeah, we set this for free accidentally, it's going to be free until this point. Or maybe it wasn't accidental and maybe it's just a promo. The thing specifically there, as somebody who doesn't really go into sales or DLC too often, in general, if you're talking a Japanese game like Senran Kagura, which again is anime girl, ninja girls fighting each other, and this is their newest one, Burst Renewal, so that's also a factor. When you look at that, those DLCs often are particularly expensive, and so anything free is something to think about and be aware of, because yeah, that just does not happen a lot of times. So I'm gonna particularly try and go in there and see if I can get the DLC for free now. Probably can't, because I don't own the software. So I don't know if it probably isn't worth buying the entire game at max price just to get one bit of free DLC. And I don't remember which part of the DLC is free, but you can go on Steam to Senran Kagura Burst Renewal. I mean, we might as well go on Steam and do that here in a second, and find the one that's free and see if we can see if you can add it, even if you don't ever end up buying the game. That really wouldn't hurt you much. This.
You are not welcome here.
What do we want to do? I think we're cool. +4 attack. Here. And here. Yeah, I've gone down to 1. There's almost no way this is going to end up badly for me. So we've got a game over here on Steam called Beat Blaster, which looks like another on-rails VR shooter game with some rhythm in it. Let's see. Actually,
I wonder.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it actually is a rhythm game this time. It just seems like it's an on-rails shooter. Is it in VR? Yes. It's $15.99. This might actually be a worthwhile game to play. Also, it might cost you to get motion sick really fast. This does, in all fairness, look like a better shooter game in VR compared to hundreds of stand in one place and shoot things VR experiences. So Beat Blaster is $15.99 with a 20% discount. Maybe consider it. I don't think, though, it's that interesting. So yeah, I'm not going to bother to put it on the follow list. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to find which one of these things of VR for Senran Kagura
I will hunt you down.
would be. Play all the cards. And take victory. Actually, the DLC on Senran Kagura is not very expensive, although buying all of it would cost you $62 extra, so there is something here. Okay. So, I believe this is the DLC that is free by accident. But quite frankly, I guess I should just go through all of... We'll switch back to Druid. Through all of the DLC and buy it. So it's... this is... hopefully still YouTube friendly. Yeah, we'll do that. So we have the Senran Kagura Burst Renewal Genshin character set, and there's a little bit of cleavage. We'll scroll past here real fast for these outfits. I imagine these are just outfits. Yeah, it says no, it's entire playable characters and outfits. Interesting. Let's see. So I don't know the Genshin characters. I guess they first appeared in Shio Versus. So yeah, I think that's what the free one. There's, so I guess maybe I can just click download and download them on and lock that in while it's free. That is a problem with a lot of the adult like cheesecake lewd games on Steam. Is like generally when I cover a game, I want to have all the DLC. When you talk about a game that has tons and tons of DLC, Train Simulator, for example, being the most expensive example I've ever seen of DLC. Yeah, it's real hard to justify trying to buy all of that. That's like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of DLC for a game that I frankly wasn't even interested in playing. Gamma Sutra has an article, Common Problems when Translating Games into Japanese. This is kind of an educational opinion piece. Gamma Sutra does a lot of these blogs from developers. It will skim through this pretty much.
The light protects me.
And do we want to do that? Or do we want to do that?
For the wild.
Common problem one, they say, is translating everything. There's a common assumption that when you translate something from English into another language, there shouldn't be any English left when you're done. That's, particularly in Japanese, not accurate. I would say, yeah, that's definitely not what you would want to do. Particularly translating proper nouns into Japanese is silly. I watched a Netflix anime called Vampire Knight, and they translated the Japanese game names into different sort of Japanese, sort of English names, I think just to match the lip flaps. So one of the characters is named like Zero in the English dub, but his name in the Japanese is not Zero, and it doesn't, I don't think his name means Zero, and even if it did mean Zero, like it really wouldn't have changed any of the story too much. So you're watching subtitles that are translated from the Japanese, they're saying the Japanese names. Meanwhile, the game, the anime itself, the dub is saying something completely different, confusing it. Common problem number 2 is translating everything to the extreme. So apparently, whoever's writing this blog is super, annoyed by translating, having to, I guess, do their job and translate things. Common problem 3 is speech styles. Okay, common problem 4 is blindly trusting the accuracy.
Your back.
And then there's the summary section. So yeah, if you want to read that blog, and if you're interested in translating an English game to Japanese, there might be something there worth reading. Of course, I already spent too much time on it. Like, we've got so many games to cover. Next we have a game on Steam called LG Ignorant Girl Doll. I assume this was supposed to be Ignorant Girl Doll. And this looks like a cheap Chinese RPG maker game. Looking at the cleavage size here, that seems like it's trying to sell cell phone sex, but looking at the fact that it's covered up tells me that it's probably a cheap Chinese game. Yeah, that's just bad looking in general. Anatomically incorrect here. Like, you don't get busts and cleavage that big without there being something physically wrong with you, or it says it's English only, but I'm still thinking it has like an adult version. $8.99 with a 10% discount. Yeah, without getting surgery or in some other way having something physically wrong with you, you don't get cleavages that big. Otherwise, there's like nothing here. The video seems to imply that the adult version might show you 4 or 5 screenshots, would be my guess. It's odd that it's English only, because I do not believe that this is made by an English developer, a native English speaker, a Western company, Western developer.
I wonder.
But then again, I guess it is fair to say that there might be crazy chancers everywhere. There are definitely people in the West who think that they can make an awesome game using RPG Maker and that it will sell and that they can make money on it. There's basically scammers everywhere. Speaking of bad looking games, we have a game on Steam called Axe Prime. It has a little bit of an interface, but it really does look like it is just a random assortment of pre-bought assets of characters in what looks like a hack and slash game, which then doesn't really make a lot of sense that there's a one-on-one interface at the top, and you clearly, these backgrounds do not match the animation style of what you're getting. This game they're trying to sell for $17.99 discounted too, and this looks like an early alpha demo of a game, not a finished product. And it's called Axe Prime, for example, and you're swinging a sword, so the name doesn't even make sense. Let's
Here we go.
Here. Next we have a game on Steam called Slime Crunch, which looks like it's a platformer, Super Meat Boy style platformer where you're trying to jump on these blocks of slimes without hitting these spinning blades. It's really zoomed out and it's not widescreen. 89 cents discounted. Yeah, just another low effort game.
This guy's toast.
Let's see if this is Explosive Trap, which it always is. That will still be good. Although there really was no reason to cause this one to get damaged. Next we have on Steam 2-Play Mahjong, clearly mistranslated from 2-player Mahjong. I don't know why you would want to play 2-player Mahjong, and I don't know if that really improves the game in any way. I've always seen people, when they're playing real Mahjong, playing 4-player Mahjong. 2-player might add a little bit more strategy in your discard piles, because instead of playing 4-player and knowing your discard could be picked up by the person to the left of you, going in like a clockwise motion, you know that your direct and only opponent would be the person who could pick up your discards. But it probably really wouldn't change most medium to low level play of people who understand Mahjong, which Mahjong is basically Gin Rummy. It's just an Eastern version of it. So yeah, I don't think that really changes your gameplay style too much, and it just gives you kind of less competition because you're only playing against one person. $12.99 is way too expensive for this game. Also, English only for a Mahjong game makes no sense. What I assume happens a lot of times when we have these English only games that clearly are targeted to a Eastern audience. I assume that this is just Chinese developers releasing English only versions of their games that they already sell via a different storefront, and they're trying to make some more money. Next we have a game called SCP The Will of the Tale, and a bunch of Asian characters all around it. It says it's free to play, and it kind of seems all over the place, but there's enough polish here that it feels like this is potentially maybe something, so I'd be willing to follow this just to see what it is. Now this video looks like they just got a animated virtual YouTuber to promote their game. See, English language not supported though, so it's free, and it's Japanese only, so okay. So this probably is a terrible Japanese game, or demo of a Japanese game. But since English is not supported, I don't have to worry about it. Let's see.
Mushroom power!
What is this?
Here we go.
There we go. GameIndustry.biz has news. The AFL-CIO urges the game industry to unionize. The largest U.S. union federation publishes an open letter telling game workers to, quote, demand a stake in your industry, end quote. What is the AFL? It's the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations is what the AFL-CIO, which I assume that was a merger between two unions at some point. This is a letter published by Kotaku, for whatever that's worth. There's a quote, this is a moment for change. You probably read the entire article. In the end, it'd probably be a real smart idea if everybody in the West, in the United States in particular, unionized. Like, probably a good idea if everybody everywhere unionized. Whatever pain companies try to inflict in the efforts to create a union will only be a fraction of the amount of pain that people in the future will suffer if you're not unionized, and quite frankly is probably only a fraction of the pain people have already suffered because they weren't unionized. Now, as a consumer, as a critic of video games, I don't inherently see the price of games going up any faster than they already are if every single video game developer unionized was a union shop tomorrow, because it's not really even an issue of pay as much as it is an issue of job stability and the upper management just holding on and gaining all the profits. And quite frankly, we might do better to have some of these some of the corporations that exist now and make games, if they decide to just shut down and close shop instead of allowing a union to form, it's probably a good thing. When you take the Walmart example, if the people who ran Walmart said we'd rather shut down every single Walmart tomorrow than have a union, probably be a good thing, you know. Somebody else who is not building their entire corporation around exploiting their workers would step in and create replacements for Walmart, and then there would be a better system, a better management in the first place. Yeah. So if EA, if Ubisoft, if well, EA or Ubisoft or any other company decide just to shut their doors versus allowing the employees to unionize, good. Like, those employees will form their own companies. But I don't want to get into an economics rant, particularly when I know that there are so many rabid people in the United States that will argue against unionization for the dumbest of reasons. And clearly I have a bias in that opinion.
Here we go.
TechRaptor has an article, Bounce Around the Stars with Robo Bunnies in Space, now on Steam Early Access. I don't know if I really need to be talking about games that are on Early Access. Hey, I made it to rank 18 with a bonus round. That being said, how long have I been playing? Is my clock not going? No, I've got like 8 more minutes. Let's see. Oh, and we just got a new quest too. European account gets quest apparently at like 5. Alright. And we've got the fuzzies going again. Hunter Mage. So with the fuzzies enabled, do we want to play mid-range Hunter or Tempo Mage? I think is what that says. Let's play Tempo Mage. Yeah, I don't need to read a hype article about a game in early access from TechRaptor. GameIndustry.biz has a opinion piece called "Rewarding Profit and Nothing Else." Bracket opinion. And it's not a bracket or a colon, it's a bar. I don't know how you say that. Activision Blizzard's mass layoffs amid record profits fits the company's disregard for optics, but it may be self-defeating in the long run. There's a bolded sentence here. This week has made it painfully clear that Activision Blizzard does not reward profit equally. There's a paragraph that starts risky business. Here's a quote. Quote, "Our employees are our greatest asset," end quote, from an Activision Blizzard SEC filing. Clearly that's not true. There's a paragraph called Blind Optics. There's a quote here. "Does anyone else find it strange a company dedicated to rewarding profit and nothing else has an apparent penchant for firing people who bring in the most profit? Question mark," end quote. So yeah, GameIndustry.biz, who for the most part does not put out opinion pieces at all, is particularly not happy about the layoffs from Activision Blizzard. And I don't think anybody other than Activision Blizzard CEOs and shareholders would really disagree with that opinion. GameIndustry.biz apparently is going into they're on a roll, or they were on a roll, so But going into the opinion business more, because the next article is stubbornness over crossplay reminds us of the bad old Sony, and then bar opinion. After opening up crossplay for major titles, Sony is now dragging its feet, putting smaller developers at a disadvantage and confusing its customers. And yeah, this article again, like we've already covered the Sony story of them not really allowing crossplay for a lot of people. So no real reason to read somebody's opinion piece on something I already know about. Next, we have a game on Steam called DreamWorks Dragons: Dawn of the New Riders. This Dragon movie series has succeeded a lot more than I thought it would. I don't know if it's based on a book series originally, if it was just DreamWorks made some dragon movies and they seem to work. So this is a video game, right? You get single player, achievements, all of that. It's $39.99. I have in the past bought a lot of Disney games and then not gotten around to playing them. So buying some DreamWorks games is not a high priority for me right now, but there certainly is a thought in my head about maybe not maybe covering some more kids games. Like I still kind of would like to cover more kids games, and this would be a much more modern kids game. So that's pretty expensive though. I'd put it on the I'll put it on the wish list, you know. Or you know what, I'll put it on the fall list to make sure it's not a terrible kids game. It may still even have relevancy if it is a terrible kids game, but I'd like to know before I put it on the wish list and then think about it. What is this next game all about? This looks like this is all text for the most part with some fancy backgrounds. The backgrounds look almost hand painted. Okay. 6 damage, taunt, battle cry, adapt. Spell damage +2. +3 health. And we go. So he won't be able to kill that without killing everything on the field and doing more. That seems like exactly what he's gonna do. And he's gonna get mana crystals for it. Ooh. This is like a well played. So we have this game on Steam called Blood Memory Misspelled, and then a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like it's pretty much just a text adventure. Some nice looking background art, but really just looks like a text adventure to me. English not supported, $2.69 discounted. Simplified Chinese game. Yeah, it's probably not very good. If I was to guess. I'm doing a lot of Chinese games and a lot of Asian games, so I don't think it has anything particularly to do with Lunar New Year. To me it seems like it's more just really a case of they have devised a system in which Chinese games get approved by in large groups one day, and then like action shooter games will get approved in another day, and seems like it comes out in chunks, and that's really the worst thing to do for releases. If Steam is actually delaying the approval of any games in chunks of categories, that means all the competition for one style of game is coming out at the exact same time. Let's see, I might be able to do this next turn. Yeah, I have just one extra. Actually, I can definitely do this. Even if this wasn't in my hand. Unless he can do 14 damage. What did that do? Transform your tree ants into 5/5 ancients. Nice. I want that card. I definitely want that card. That is an amazing cool card to have. And we're win streak bonusing, so like one more victory would, like, let's not break the streak. Let's play one more game. Next we have a game with just a bunch of Asian characters in the letter B. It's probably a visual novel. It's probably a cheap Chinese visual novel from the level of qualities of graphics. Early access, English not supported, $4.89 discounted, simplified Chinese only, yeah. And yeah, we're kind of not anywhere yet on as far as covering all these games, but if it got close to the end of the stream, I could also just go through all the news again like I did last time and not worry about it. Not worry about the games. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Artillery Globe, which looks kind of like a, I guess it's a hex grid on a sphere missile defense kind of war game. Not sure if this really is the kind of game I'd want to play. $15.99. It's multiplayer only, so I don't have to play it. It's English and simplified Chinese. This doesn't look bad graphically. Just kind of comes down to what you want to do. I wonder if this is supposed to be the moon, and this is just, oh, this is what China will do. They'll build their base on the other side of the moon, and then NASA's gonna build a permanent presence on the moon. They announced in politics and all that, and it's like, okay, whatever. Whatever you two are gonna do, fighting over a stupid rock in space. Now, there are actual issues, certainly, about major players in space seemingly, from what I've heard, becoming more aggressive and weaponizing space travel. The last thing we need is people shooting lasers or missiles from space and blowing each other up. But yeah, I don't think that's coming from a moon base. From everything I've heard, China's intentions on the moon is very economic, whereas I've heard Russia has actually actively and intentionally come very close to other satellites to either spy and steal technology or block signal or crash and destroy extremely expensive satellites. I believe the dish satellites were extremely close to being hit by like a Russian satellite. Not that that would shut down a significant amount of news or anything coming out or communication.
I can't do that.
Next secret you have. Do I have any secrets? Oh man, I could have played that. That was a secret.
Smelly fish! Yummy fish!
Right. Do we have anything else that does spell damage? No.
Me? I found it first.
Well done.
Let's see. Next we have a game from a article from Gamatsu. Yumi Susu remaster has been delayed to June 13th in Japan, no longer planned for February. This looks like a Yuri Girls Love style visual novel. It's going to launch on the PS4, Switch, PS Vita, and PC. It's the quote bubbly cute girls love game development company adventure visual novel. Yeah, that probably reads a lot better in Japanese. But yeah, by the tags, it's a visual novel. And the master probably indicates that it is a remaster of a previous game. Says here, given that the Japanese version is delayed, it's likely the Western version is delayed too. I don't have any secrets. I don't have any spell damage.
Precision.
One's out on
A real stinker.
In return. Let's see.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Let me just scroll down through this article and see if it's really worth mentioning. It probably isn't. Gamatsu has a different article. Yokai Watch 4 details Navi Wolf, Yokai, and 4 new Yokai. Or Yoki, actually. That's Yoki, and that's Yokai. So, yeah. The Yokai Watch series
We have many
still
secrets.
a thing. I'm not sure it's ever really been a major popular product in the West, though. As something that's sort of like a Pokemon competitor, but it's with Japanese ghosts, so it really never stood a great chance to compete against Pokemon. Digimon, I think, probably stood a much better chance because it had a cartoon with it. Right, we've got a victory. Not quite yet,
A
but
real stinker.
in return.
Unity. Precision. Perfection.
The future is ours.
I wonder why he didn't merge that. He didn't. I guess that gives him more health. Let's see. Gamatsu has another article. Dead or Alive 6 Deluxe Demo DLC character Maya Shiranu from King of Fighters 14 and more announced. So we have a new character for Dead or Alive 6. Dead or Alive 6 seems like it is lining up. It's due out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on March 1st. Yeah. I think I am learning that the Dead or Alive series is probably a series that would beat out Street Fighter as far as fighting games. Like, I think I'd much prefer to play the Dead or Alive series at this point. Let's see. Crackdown 3 is now available for the Xbox One and Windows 10 via Xbox Play Anywhere and Xbox Game Pass. Unfortunately, Crackdown Crackdown 3 is not getting very well reviewed. So yeah, that kind of sucks. where we wanted to. I should have attacked that guy for a couple different reasons. Yeah. Feels like I watched a Giant Bomb quick look of Crackdown 3, and it feels like the problem with the game is that it is just got repetitive missions. The story doesn't really move forward in any way from the ending of Crackdown 1. I don't think Crackdown 2's story really moved forward in any way either. And it's just kind of more of the same instead of improvements of the same. That broke our streak too, so this is where we'll end this recording. And I guess Terry Crews really doesn't do anything to save the game, which is not super surprising. It seems like Crackdown also has an odd multiplayer that's a completely separate executable, which is never a good sign. I think the problem with Crackdown 3 boils down to just poor leadership in general. Somebody at the top tier of Microsoft said this game has to use the cloud destructible environment technology and show off, I believe it's called Windows Azure Cloud Computing, above anything else. Meanwhile, there didn't seem like there was anyone who was passionate about writing a good story or making a good game. And you would have to do quite a lot to Crackdown 1 to make it a better game than Crackdown 1 versus Crackdown 2, which was kind of a worse game, and Crackdown 3, which seems like at best it is just the same game over and over again. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Welcome! The competition is fierce tonight.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, February 15th. We're on the Asian account, and we've still got tons of news to talk about and games to talk about. We've had kind of a backlog this entire day. Let's see, do I want to keep 2 victories of any class or get rid of this? I think you get rid of this, because then if that had replaced it with a 60 gold quest, which I'm taking notice, I've re-rolled a quest on both my Americas account, my European account, and now the Asian account. None of them have re-rolled into a 60 gold quest. So we were getting these really good quests that were giving us a lot of gold, and now it seems like they're just taking back what they gave us before. So they got us in the door while they were doing that celebration, and now they've gotten greedy again. So 2 games of any class, 25 minions. We don't need to do tavern brawls. This is going to be particularly a short hour. We are doing like on the nose hour episodes right now, which is fine. So let's go and start covering these games. We have a game on Steam called Faraghanarok, whatever that, however you pronounce that. This looks pretty random and weird looking, and it looks like kind of MS Paint graphics, so I'm not interested. It's early access, 89 cents discounted. That's not a game that's making it to the fall list.
versus
We've got a lot of games, and we've maybe got a bit more news too. Let's see, take these two out. Next we have a game on Steam called HA-CK as in hack. This doesn't look terrible as like a Portal-esque clone with jumping and maybe shooting. This really is one of those games though where you could, a lot of this could be just simple pre-bought assets, and it really is going to boil down to how well it plays. And so I can put this on the fall list and we'll see how the reviews go. It's $88.49 discounted. So yeah, this one potentially will make it to the wish list depending on how well it plays. There have been a few games that are Portal looking clones, and there's been some question in my mind about how good those games actually are, and often they aren't great. Like, we're not even really looking, if it's a Portal clone, you're not even really looking for something to be better than Portal, because of course Valve was behind Portal and they had more money and better writers. You're just looking for something that could possibly be as good, or even a fraction as good. Gamatsu has the same article we've already talked about. Bayonetta 2 director Yusuke Hashimoto leaves Platinum Games. This is an opportunity to see another screenshot of Bayonetta, so we could take that, certainly. Yeah, no plans announced or anything publicly, so it seems to be pretty typical in the video game industry, and I think probably in any industry, frankly, if you're not straight up fired, or you don't have just a open and obvious and already well-known hatred for the company you're working for, you tend to not in the same press conference to announce where you're going to work next. You wait a while, because there's usually a non-compete clause. So you wait 6 weeks, 6 months, you take a vacation, you enjoy your life, take a break, and then you come back and you announce, oh, actually I'm now working for this new company that I am working for.
It's playtime. It's playtime.
And then, well, if I kill that, I die. So just draw a card, I guess, and in the turn. Gamatsu has another cool That Game Company's game Flower is now available for PC. This game was launched for the PlayStation 3 in 2009, and it's kind of like a floating flying simulator, I think, if I remember it correctly. It's been 10 years. It's ridiculous, certainly. We can show up the screenshot here, that a game has to wait 10 years to come to PC, or decides to wait 10 years. I'm not sure if it really had to. Yeah, that's just not the way I would like to see the world work if I have a chance to affect the world in any way. So do I want to discard a card? Or do I want to kill something? I need to make room, so it wouldn't kill me to kill something. There we go. So it's available on Steam and the Epic Games Store. The question I would like to know is, what has that game company done otherwise? So I'm just gonna search Google and see what games they have been working on. They made... They're making a game called Sky. Let's see. Okay. You cleared the field. That sucks. Alright, so they have a game called Sky, which they're going for very simplistic names here. That's coming out for the iPad and iPhone and Mac and Apple TV. Take flight with your friends above the clouds in a new social adventure game. They have Journey, which I would have loved to see that come to PC. And I guess maybe if Flower sells well, eventually they'll port Journey. I imagine all of these games run on somewhat similar engines. And they also have this game called Flow that I don't even remember that.
So many.
And it's been like 12 years since this company started, so like that is, I guess, something else to consider. Like, I'd much prefer to play Journey than Flower. Let's do that.
Your soul is
But I will put Flower on the wish list. There's really no reason not to put it on the wish list. So, yeah. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Yusuke Hashimoto departs Platinum Games. We already talked about that. We don't need to talk about that again. Discard a card. Can't discard a card if we don't have a card.
Your magic shall not save.
TechRaptor has an article, Nintendo 213 recap on Nintendo Direct. So this is just a recap of the Nintendo Direct. I actually did sit through the Nintendo Direct earlier today. It was probably a waste of time, quite frankly. This is the one point where you could just have journalists recap it in an article and save yourself time versus watching the entire video. That does imply to me that I very possibly, when E3 happens, may not decide to sit through the E3 streams. The thing about E3 though is that there's so much being said from the multiple presentations that watching it all as it happens is not really any more time than looking at dozens and dozens of articles. Whereas the Nintendo Direct boils down to about 6 game announcements and that's it. So, Super Mario Maker 2 was announced. Let's see how this goes. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order was announced. Box Boy plus Box Girl was announced. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will receive a version 3.0 update in the spring. Excuse me. I'm about to lose. Let's see. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker will get a free update. Bloodstained Ritual Night had a demo. It's coming out in the summer of 2019. A game called a Western port of Dragon Quest Builders 2 is coming out. Dragon's Quest 11 will launch worldwide on PC and PS4. Let's see. I guess Dragon's Quest 11 S for Switch version, Echoes of Elusive Age Definitive Edition will be coming to the Switch in the fall of 2019. So a kind of Switch version of the game that probably has not as good graphics, if I was to guess. It's coming out. A game called Disney's Tsum Tsum Festival. TSUM. Seems like it's kind of maybe a Mario Party game. Starlink Battle for Atlas will get an update. Rune Factory 4 is coming to the Switch later this year. Tokyo RPG Factory, known for their works on I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, are making a game titled Oni Naki, O-N-I-N-A-K-I. Seems to be a game that is, I saw a trailer for that, and I remember it's focused around a lot of death, and like the people in this world are not allowed to mourn people who have died, and you go into the world of the dead. It might be like a weird Japanese take on that movie Coco. Was that the name of it? That came out a couple of years ago. Let's see. What else? Here, they didn't label this very well in the TechRaptor article. More talk about Fire Emblem Three Houses. Let's see. Dead by Daylight is getting a Switch port. A game called Daemon X Machina, a stylish mecha game, is coming out. Grid Auto Sports will get a Switch port. Apparently EA, Ubisoft, and Square Enix got a moment, which is probably just a straight up slap in the face to Sony, who's not been really supporting third-party developers. Unravel 2, Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered is coming to the Switch. Final Fantasy 7 is coming to the Switch. Final Fantasy 9 is on the eShop. And Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody will arrive on March 2nd. And then the big ticket one is the remake of Zelda Link to the Past, or The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which was a classic Game Boy title, which I probably never played. So if I were to get a Switch at some point, which is a big if, that would probably be a really good experience to have, and it's undoubtedly a really smart move for Nintendo to start bringing back some of the older Zelda Game Boy games on the Switch, and just bringing back some of their older games and remaking them in general. But yeah, this article, there's a game from Platinum called Astral Chain. We'll get more information about all of these games and more, because I'm pretty sure I missed some in this article, because man, I just needed a list and they did not bother to give me a list in an article titled the Nintendo Direct 213 Recap. That being said, I probably opened dozens of other pages talking about what was announced, so that I may come back and have more news to talk about that. Let's see, can I show off this one?
Who goes there?
Let me just look at the screenshots, because this one is tagged sexual content. Yeah, this one looks family friendly, at least on the Steam page. It's almost a
magic shall not save
apropos title too. We have a game on Steam called Steam Prison, which is a visual novel from Manga Gamer, tag sexual content. It might have an adult patch. The animation looks pretty good, although there are words over a lot of these screenshots too. So yeah, it sounds like it's a steampunk game where main character might be imprisoned in one way or another. It's $31.49, 10% off, and there's no DLC, so intense graphic violence, non-consensual sexual violence, and various forms of abuse. Okay, so that is that. Full audio in Japanese, which is interesting. So where do I go with a visual novel like this? I probably should put it on the follow list because I want to see, this is probably a game for that price that either is way overpriced or actually really good quality. Looking at the animation, it looks like it might actually be pretty good quality on the scale of visual novel games.
In the light's name.
Now, of course, if you're not interested in visual novel games, that's not going to change anything. Let's do this. Yes.
It's playtime.
So yeah, Steam Prison goes on the follow list until we can get some more information about it. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Tiny Build raises $15 million in Series A funding. Funds to be used to increase staff, build more franchises, and invest in more innovative gameplay. Tiny Build is the publisher of Hello Neighbor. I think they're probably going in the wrong way. This article says the company declined to comment on who the investor was. Because Hello Neighbor really was just a flash in the pan success because of streamers, and I don't think it's really that good of a game. And they are already making an MMO out of it. I guess I need to play something different than the Warlock. I was looking for victories, so let's just try this. Hunter, you know we haven't played Paladin in a while. Let's just try out Paladin. Keep it interesting. So yeah, in the long run, Hello Neighbor, Tiny Builds needs to make something besides Hello Neighbor and prove that they can actually make other games and good games and grow into a company that exists for more than the reason of just accidentally being lucky. That being said, getting funding also opens you up to growing too big too fast and potentially having investors ruin your company. But I guess in this case, this might be the closest example of where funding and investment should happen, where literally a company that probably had no chance otherwise of ever growing big has been won the lottery basically to so that they can hire new employees and see if they can make a company out of it. But boy, is that really gambling more than it is investing. It's the equivalent of just handing a random person $100 and say, come back in a month and give me as much profit as possible from this $100.
The light dims, but we fight. The light protects me.
The battle! The battle!
These characters talk about the light too much. Next we have a game on Steam called Escape Lala, which looks like an old school hard point and click adventure game. So if this is a brand new game, it's selling itself kind of on the love of old school things. It's free, so the price is right. I love point and click adventure games. If this was something you had to pay for, I might put it on the follow list. Unfortunately, I have no real reason to promote or review games that are free anyways. So if you want to play Escape Lola, it is here and it's free, and that is that. You know what? I might just add it to my got free list anyways. So I'll have to come over here and see if this developer has developed anything else. No.
Now.
And so I guess I'll add it, but then add it to the got free list. And this guy's not moving.
Handle it!
There we go.
To battle!
I fight.
Let's hit that guy.
To battle!
Repent.
Next we have a game on Steam called Clocker, and then a bunch of Asian characters. Although this animation style really doesn't strike me as an Asian game, and it seems like it's maybe a time manipulation RPG, story-rich adventure. Yeah, maybe more of a puzzle adventure, point-and-click adventure style game that really wants to admit. $11.99. It has a digital art book and a soundtrack bundled. Yeah, I don't get the Asian characters though, because when you look at the languages, it's like English and traditional Chinese. So either this is a good Chinese game, which would be a rarity, and I definitely want to put a good Chinese game on the wish list for $11.99. Or it's just been oddly translated, so the English page has all that information. I'll put this on the follow list though, and we'll just see what happens. See what the reviews say. It still has that opportunity to look really good and turn out to only be 5 minutes of actual gameplay, or in some other way not really good quality. Speaking of not good quality, we have a game called Spork the Maniac Utensil, which looks like MS Paint level graphics for some platforming game of some sort. $7.99 with a 20% discount. Ridiculous. Yeah, I am in no way interested in that game. Let's see. I watched the Giant Bomb Quick Look, or I kind of skipped around the Giant Bomb Quick Look of this game. So we have on Steam Jump Force, which is Shonen Jump characters in kind of a fighting game with some walk around RPG elements too. You can see already it's kind of mixed results. I think the problem here, and this was always kind of the problem we were going to run into, is that Dragon Ball FighterZ was a good game about a good fighting game, and now that brought in an audience that is going to hold every developer, every publisher like Bandai Namco here into making extremely good fighting games, when the industry has been for years making mediocre quality fighting games with anime tie-in characters. Dragon Ball in particular has a whole series of bad games. Also, you run into the problem, since this is Shonen Jump characters from different stories and different worlds interacting with each other, the stories are going to feel awkward and kind of weird in the first place.
I fight.
So that is another thing.
Reporting for duty.
So Jump Force Deluxe Edition is, I believe, $89.99. The main version is $59.99. It's probably not anywhere worth that. See if we can. Let's see. We have a negative review down here. Lackluster was hyped up too much. Not worth $60, but would you expect Bandai has been releasing half, well, I think it's, he's saying they're half butt efforts, and that's been what they have been, certainly. Like you're probably not going to Bandai Namco for a high quality game, fighting game. Another review, all flash, no substance, worth 25 to 35, not 80. Meh. Another review, meh. I don't know what to say. The game isn't worth £49. Alone, 82 pounds. Story is short and tedious, with barely any cuts scenes, and 95% is just repetitive. Retrieving cube from replica, it just feels lifeless. Even without much cutscenes, most of the ones shown suck. The free missions and the key missions are just plain boring, and the AI sucks no matter what mode it is on. Here's a tip: just break its guard and you win. Yeah. Another negative review, barely any content, not worth the price. So yeah, you're getting a lot of reviews from people who actually bought the game on Jump Force saying, yeah, this is not worth it. Now, Jump Force does have a little bit of relevancy, potentially. It certainly was a little bit hyped. So I'll put it on the follow list, but by the time I get around to looking at the follow list, almost certainly it will be removed from the follow list. Again, if I'm going to play a fighting game, I would be willing to play Dragon Ball FighterZ, because that's a good fighting game around an anime that I'm pretty familiar with. But then I think I'd work my way into some of the just standard fighting games. Maybe that's Mortal Kombat. Maybe I skip Mortal Kombat. Maybe that's Infamous. Maybe I skip Infamous. Maybe that's Blaze Blue. Maybe that's SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, although I don't think that fighting game really gets played because it's a fighting game. I think that fighting game would get played just because it's a lewd anime girl game. But eventually I think I'd work my way up in skill and quality to either a DOA game or whatever the top tier Evo games are that are being played. TechRaptor has an article promoting Nutaku's newest game, so dodge cute monster girls and run like hell in Nutaku's Monster Mashing. Nutaku being the adult-only games storefront. Most of their games are not worth playing, and again, this one does not look like it really is worth playing. They're not doing... They're kind of making their own games instead of just importing games. Which, let's try Priest here. Which, honestly, if they were just importing games, they'd probably have better quality products. And maybe they do import games, but that's not what gets promoted. TechRaptor has another article. Catherine Full Body arrives September 3rd. Atlas has been known in the past to release these guidelines saying, well, content ID, copyright strike. I think they'll straight up copyright strike you if you try to play certain games past certain points. And the rules don't really have any legal basis. Their idea of fair use falls into what Japanese believe is fair use in Japan, which may be the truth in Japan. I don't know Japanese law, but it certainly is not the definition of fair use in the copyright laws in America, which is what YouTube is set in, so we're following American law and not Japanese law. I'm not even going to get into the quagmire saying, well, maybe the United States has a treaty with Japan to follow Japanese copyright law. That is certainly what a lot of the TPP and some of that stuff was built around, and like, yeah, we're not ready to embrace any concepts like that, certainly. So as for me, I'd love to play Catherine Full Body if it was on PC. It's not, and it probably won't come out for PC for a while. Instead, they just have Catherine remaster or the original Catherine on PC. And I guess they're really, I haven't seen any guidelines saying you can't stream the PC version of the original Catherine. So I guess Atlas doesn't really care about that. The thing that's important to point this out, and I really don't have an article talking about this in front of me, this is just something I saw. Thing to point out here though is it does very much seem like Atlas of America, Atlas USA, is trying their best to convince Atlas of Japan to not release these guidelines and just let people stream. But you know, Japanese people, sometimes it's great that they don't listen to any foreigners, even people that are working with them or for them, or possibly even people that are working above them. But then sometimes it is just this old style stubbornness of, we know what we're doing, and sure, we'll smile and nod yes when you're in the room, but we'll do whatever we feel like. Although more often than not, that works pretty well for everybody. To just smile and nod yes and do whatever you were going to do anyways. Moving on. Gamma Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Fantasy Flight Interactive is hiring a technical art director. Now, I think you would be forgiven if you thought Fantasy Flight Interactive had something to do with Final Fantasy games. I do not think it does, though. So the technical art director for Fantasy Flight Interactive via Asimode North America. This job is in Madison, Wisconsin. It is the video game development studio for Fantasy Flight Games, a world-class creator of role-playing board and card games. So that explains why I've never heard of them. They don't actually make video games. But I guess if they're looking for... well, no, it's a video game development studio that makes video games of role-playing board and card games, I guess. Which still explains why I haven't heard of them. I guess. Yeah.
You are not welcome here.
Let's see. Next on Steam, we have a game called Catnip Cafe. This looks like it might be a bit like Cook Serve Delicious with firing fireballs and doing top-down shooting. Actually, now that I'm looking at it though, it's probably more of a tower defense game in a cafe setting for no reason. It's free, but it definitely looks rough in some of the 3D animations and the general concept. But yeah, it's like a co-op tower defense in a cafe for no reason.
You are the Shadow's puppet.
Okay. And just go ahead and heal in return. Next we have a game on Steam called Cavern, C-A-V-Y-R-N. Looks like an RPG Maker game. Nothing particularly interesting here. Those tile sets, man. If you're making a game with tile sets, you're probably doing the wrong thing. $4.99 with no discount. Yeah. Like, I know from my programming background, you probably do have to have tile sets to make a lot of games. But if your game looks like it has tile sets at the end of the day, you've given it an appearance of such an old game that I don't think anybody's really going to be interested in it. So do this.
In the light's name.
Do this. Do this. And I want to heal. I can't heal. Darn it. I didn't realize this was going to run this way. Next we have a game on Steam called OIK Memory 3. This OIK series I've seen before. I don't think I've ever put it on the wish list though, so I'm gonna have to look and see what the other reviews on this series is. Seems like he's just flooding Steam with OIK games, yeah. The fact that you have a bundle here for $8.06 tells me that, yeah, he's just making achievement games. Yeah, 85 achievements for 50 levels is ridiculous. Yeah, so it's just an achievement game. Alright. This. And this.
You are the shadow.
And this. And what do I want to do? Just end the turn. For the about 100th time, TechRaptor has an article here. Violent video game study finds no link to increased aggression. This has happened like 100 times at this point. This is a new study from Oxford Internet Institute of the University of Oxford, stating, quote, violent video game engagement is not associated with adolescents' aggressive behavior, end quote. There's another quote here. The idea that violent video games drive real-world aggression is a popular one, but it hasn't tested very well over time, end quote, says the lead researcher, Professor Andrew Przybylski, Director of Research at the Oxford Internet Institute. Quote, despite interest in the topic by parents and policymakers, the research has not demonstrated that there is a cause for concern, end quote. And we could go on, but there's a couple more quotes, but yeah, hundreds and hundreds of times this has happened, and at this point, hundreds and hundreds of times this has been brought up. At least dozens and dozens of times it's been tested and shown that there's no real link or a small increase in aggression in the next 5 minutes with dubious standards like of what they mean is aggression or not. And a lot of studies are dubious in their testing methods. It's like they test if somebody is willing to share a cookie with someone else, and before they play the violent video games, then they play the violent video games, and then they ask if they're still willing to share the cookie, and anybody who says no, they're not willing to share the cookie at that point is labeled as a violent. Being violent. It's like, okay, not realistic. And the level of violence has always been incredibly low. Like,
The pleasure is mine.
this is just it has always been just an NRA talking point. It is coming directly from the National Rifle Association, who is sending lobbyists and paying money to politicians to bring it up. And they're probably sending lobbyists and paying politicians to also, or they're also probably sending lobbyists and paying news people to bring it up, although it does seem to get clicks. Moving on, I don't want to get hung up on that conversation because, I mean, it's done. It literally is just like, stop talking about it. The conversation is over. Violent video games don't make people violent. It doesn't. Period. Doesn't need to be tested anymore. Doesn't need to be talked about. It doesn't happen. You know what makes people violent? Violence in the home. Violence in the classrooms. Violence, behavior, and aggressive behavior by bad teachers and bad parents. You wanna deal with that? Violence in your neighborhood. Living in a bad neighborhood. That increases violence.
Job's done.
Poverty increases violence. Deal with those things. Quit talking about video games. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Plug-in Digital raises $2.25 million for its expansion into Asian markets. In light of recent growth, distributor plans a new strategy for publishing label Palladius. Let's see. Plug-in Digital. Yeah, there's nothing in here that's really telling me what Plug-in Digital has made. I know the name, but there's so many companies that have names that sound familiar. Being able to remember what game that developer actually made is basically impossible. Game Researcher has an article. We already kind of talked about this. There's a report that Netmarble and Tencent could buy Nexon as part of a consortium. So yeah, we had already kind of talked about that. The owner of Nexon doesn't want to be in the video game industry anymore because of what he calls too much volatility is the word I'm trying to say. Too much volatility in the industry, so he wants to get out and sell. But unfortunately, Nexon is South Korea's biggest video game company, and there's no other South Korean company alone that can buy them out completely. So Netmarble, being a South Korean company, is going to Tencent, the Chinese company, to ask for help as far as funding to be able to afford to buy the game, company. Let's see. Misdirection. Or destroy. Or just attack here. Yeah, if I do this, that shouldn't be too bad. Next we have a game on Steam called My House, which looks like a kind of ugly looking architectural simulator game. There are better softwares out there, certainly, to do this kind of thing. There's no reason for it to actually be a game. There's definitely designing software. Maybe that designing software is really expensive, but it makes a final product that is much more relatable to and visually appealing. And that's not the name of this game. Interesting. We scroll down here and the game is called Hentai Temple 2 for 59 cents. So clearly what this is this was a low effort sex game that was trying to sell itself, and they got forced into replacing and changing their name, and it didn't fully lock in, either that or this is just straight up a bug. Either way, this is not a game that would make it to the fall list. So, but that is kind of striking that would be even a possibility that you have a different name from what it is. Unfortunately, Steam is pretty common to do that kind of stuff. They will just allow you to to kind of make instant fast changes to your description or your name when somebody should be looking at that and approving your changes, so you're not doing a bait and switch scam. I'm looking at somebody's Twitter feed. And they did something, but I don't even think it had anything to do with video games. I think it had to do with Google's new plugin for password checkups to check to see if your passwords have been put online. And I think that's what I was clicking on. But yeah, I'm like scrolling down his collection of posts, and he was just kind of random stuff all over the place.
Quickly.
And I've scrolled down more than enough that if it was something relatively frequent, I should have seen it. So whatever. Yeah, it was. There's this plugin. Let's see, password checkup, and he tweeted out to somebody a picture of what it looks like when the password checkup tells you to change your password. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit on this picture. Just give it a general idea. We could do a little screenshot here, although this doesn't have anything to do with video games. So yeah. So here's what it looks like when it catches change your passwords. Of course, this might be the icon for password checkup. Maybe not. It's hard to tell. Could be. Like, this is Privacy Badger, this is uBlock Origin, I think, and this is HTTPS Anywhere. Some of these I definitely don't recognize as plugin icons. I'm still not 100% sure I trust their software, because they say they're not just sending the passwords in any encrypted way from your computer to their database, but then I'm not sure how it's really working at all to know that the password, your password on this site has been compromised. And I guess it is just your password on this site that's been compromised, not that you need to not use this password anywhere ever again, which is probably the truth. Like, if your password's compromised, you should probably never use a password like that or that password again anywhere, because if someone is specifically targeting you or cross-referencing you and they can figure out, oh, this email account was the same email account used to make other passwords on other sites, then we could try similar passwords. You want to make it as hard as possible. So ideally, theoretically, it's not super likely that a lot of people would do this, but ideally you would want a new email address for every site that you've set up a password on it. And at that new email address, you would want a new password that is in no way like any of the other passwords. And Chrome has started to just straight up suggest, hey, here, let's give you some random numbers and symbols and passwords, and we'll just save it into your Chrome browser. And that's basically what LastPass does. So LastPass integrated with Google, pretty good unless somebody hacks your Google. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Find True Love in the All-Ages Yuri visual novel Lily Cycle Rainbow Stage. So we'll web peek here. Yuri is girl on girl, visual novels, all ages. Is subjective, certainly. And here we have very moe anime girl styles of characters drawn to look smaller and younger, fictional characters, of course. So who cares what they're drawn to look like? At least that's the attitude I think everybody should have. Let's see. It can be picked up on Manga Gamer Style or Steam on March 14th. It's interesting that they're really doing an advertisement for a game like this on TechRaptor. It seems like TechRaptor is getting more and more into hyping games and less into oh, what would you call it? Yeah, that was the one I wanted to die. Into just selling games.
I hunt alone.
Or reviewing games. It's in the channel. So here's the Steam page of Lily Cycle Rainbow Stage, and it's not tagged with any like sexual content or nudity. So Yuri can be in Japanese pure love idea, best friend love, more than just straight on lesbian love, although it seems like this is kind of going in all directions. And look at and for Steam, here we go, age 17, age 21, age 17. Yeah, this is the ridiculousness that Steam's censorship policies in the past have brought about in previous companies' censorship policies have brought about in the past is just, oh yeah, let's just depict them in this moe style and then say they're 21 years old, which, okay, whatever. Again, fictional characters, I don't care what age you say they are or how you depict them or whatever, just tell a good story and make a good game. Although this is a new game too, so it's not out until March, so we'll talk about it more when it comes out. I don't want to really rub this in, but I think it is news that's getting underreported. 5 hours ago, Epic Games Store tweeted out, "We've resolved the issue causing games in the Epic Store launcher to not appear in your library. Thank you for your patience." This is pretty consistent what's happening on the Epic Store of issues just happening a lot here. Do these same issues sometimes pop up on Steam? Possibly, but the Steam support, which I follow, I'm pretty sure, doesn't tweet out small issues, only big time issues. YouTube, which I follow, doesn't tweet out big issues, except for the times that there are big issues, which only happen like once a year, pretty much. There's some minor issues that they will tweet out to YouTube creators if it's specifically only affecting the creators, and that happens a little bit more often. But the Epic Games Store really strikes me as not polished still. So every now and then I may just point out, yeah, there's still talking about problems they're having at their current level, in which they barely have any features. Next we have a game on Steam called The Floor is Really Cheap Lava, which I assume is a joke on just how terrible this asset flip game looks. Free to play, so I guess the price is right. I have no interest in that, of course.
Science overwhelmed.
I found it first.
We may be approaching the end in sight as far as covering all the news, but I think we're kind of far from getting all the daily quests done. 1 minion. If I did this, it would do more damage.
Starlight.
That's random minions. To the hand. Gamer Sutra has an article. Mobile dev Next Games lays off 26 of its staff. This Helsinki-based mobile developer Next Game plans to lay off 26 developers during the first half of 2019. A decision made in an effort both to cut costs and reduce the time to market for upcoming projects. I don't know how you reduce the time to market of a game by laying off staff. It is a claim that only really makes sense if you're saying you need more money to pay for things that don't involve actually finishing your game and polishing it. Like, it means the game is as good as it's ever going to get, and you needed more money to pay advertisers and shipping and production companies to get it out. And if you're a mobile game developer, you're not making a physical version, so it's not shipping, and it's just advertising and putting it on like the iOS store and the Google Play Store. That's pretty much all it could be. So their claim definitely does not ring true. It seems like a lie to me. I should have killed that first, and then maybe tried that again. Although that probably still wouldn't have done anything. GameIndustry.biz has an article: 134 jobs in danger at Blizzard's French office. Activision Blizzard lays off Reach Europe. Activision's Blizzard's layoffs reach Europe, but employees may have to wait months to find out who is affected. So it seems like it's a slow process of actually laying people off. So 134 jobs are the maximum number of people, probably the actual number of people that work in Blizzard's Versailles office. So I would imagine the number very possibly will be less.
Starlight.
So is that part of the 800 jobs potentially that are going to be laid off? Maybe, maybe not. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what Blizzard's French office was actually working on. Is also a question. Like, I don't know. So it might not be something that particularly interests me anyways.
Neither snow nor rain nor witch. Move!
What's the odds of actually needing to destroy enemy secrets?
All around.
Next we have a game on Steam called RICA. Looks like it's an RPG Maker game with some dark screenshot syndrome. This is the first game. We've covered a lot of games today. First game I've had to use that phrase, dark screenshot syndrome. It's free to play, English and simplified Chinese. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything there that looks like it would be interesting. 3 and freeze? Probably not.
Move!
I could kill that. Save myself a little bit of health.
For Dalaran.
Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Atelier Lulua lights up the west this spring. We'll show off this screenshot. Looks like there's a door in the sky or something. So this Atelier series seems like it is coming to the west in a big way. I don't know if it's a good series or not yet. I haven't been able to really do the full research. There's so many different games under that series. It's coming out sometime after March 20th. And I guess I could watch this trailer while I play over here.
Science overwhelmed.
Let's see what this trailer shows me. Well, there's animated cartoon parts as I'm skipping through. There's some 3D stuff. There's a lot of characters talking to the screen. Apparently it's a book that was glowing in the sky. So it looks like it's a 3D RPG game to me. Yeah. I'm just gonna play this and do that and hold on to this.
Job's done.
So yeah, not a lot in that trailer other than just a general idea of the 3D graphics looking pretty good, but a little budget too. This is not going to be top tier AAA animation that you have, but it'll be fine. Okay. This and this, and I can just get a little bit more damage next turn. Gamasutra has the same article. Bayonetta 2 director Yusuke Hashimoto has left Platinum Games. I talked about that. Okay. So we've got a problem now. We've got to really kill this. Oh man.
Job's done.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Slime Adventure, which looks like a Super Meat Boy platforming game. Maybe a little bit more polish in the animation in the background, but the foreground is just all blackness, missing texture. It's 69 cents discounted English Russian game. Yeah. One damage to me. Just do that. That's the best I can do. See. Next we have a game called the Queen of Blackwood High. This looks like a Western visual novel. And the animation style. Going with that marker look, certainly. And it feels like this is possibly tracing of porn stars animation. Yeah, the marker look is often not what I'm liking. Let's see, what is it? It's $3.99, 20% off. No full audio. I'll give this one a chance just to see. Like, I'd like to see if this actually is reviewed very well, but I highly suspect nobody will ever play it, and even if people did play it, they wouldn't like it that well. I'm still always looking for Western visual novels to see if they can come to the level of quality of the good Japanese and Eastern visual novels, which there's not even a lot of good Eastern visual novels out there either. There's just a lot of garbage in general. I'm still just trying to get a victory. Yeah, I just need like one more victory and that's it. Let's try Hunter. And let's try Casual. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam, Puppet Show Lightning Strike Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games for their usual $12.99 with no discount. Apparently there's a whole series of Puppet Show games for $47.65. These are hidden object games. They're always too expensive. Although maybe the quality from Big Fish Game isn't really terrible. But the expense is definitely high. Gamma Sutra has an article, Ubisoft isn't worried about an influx of new games stealing Rainbow Six Siege's thunder. I think we already talked about that article. In that exact article.
The light protects.
Gamma Sutra has an article, revenue down by 5.4% at Rovio, but the game segment holds firm. So Rovio, the Angry Birds team, which recently came out with that Angry Birds in VR announcement or game on, I think it's Steam and not PlayStation 4, might be just PlayStation 4. The Angry Birds VR game did look interesting. That being said, Angry Birds is like their only IP that I even know them by, and they milked it for all they could, which may have been the right move, but they certainly did not turn around and use that income from all the sales when Angry Birds was very popular to invest in new tentpole series. GameIndustry.biz has an article, Why Ubisoft Moved the Division 2 to the Epic Game Store. CEO Yves Guillemot praises Epic's terms but says the move was to, quote, increase players' exposure to our own store. Which I think means the Uplay store. So they literally moved the Division 2, which is coming out, to the Epic store so that they could then drive traffic and not have to follow whatever small amount of rules Steam has about not driving traffic to third-party stores like Uplay. And so here you have the snake eating its own tail, basically. It's like Uplay, a third-party store nobody likes, moves the Division 2 to Epic Game Store, which a lot of people don't like, including myself, just so that they could use it as a springboard to move people back to Uplay, which nobody likes. Yeah, just going in circles mentally.
like to play with fire?
At this point, I think we'll skip some of the games on Steam and we'll just try to cover news in general. I'm a little afraid at this point that this will probably be our last game, and I just want to get all the news done. Daedalic announced Unrailed as one of the 6 games it was coming out. I'm looking at a Eurogamer.de web page, which is all in German, so I can't really tell you too much about that. Here's an important game to mention, I think, so I'll kind of skip around here. So new on Steam, we have Ruby deck building game, RWBY. A Ruby deck building game. It's rated mostly positive already. Sounds slightly interesting. It's not going to be a replacement or competition to Hearthstone or any collectible card game. We're in a weird position, certainly with Rooster Teeth as a game developer and also a content creator on YouTube that was in some way in competition or spawned off of Machinima, and then Machinima was bought out and they fired everything and deleted everything off the channel. And see, I'm not even into Rooster Teeth or Machinima enough of any of their content to know how to even explain what was going on there or what went on, but I know Rooster Teeth is kind of in this weird position. And then as a YouTuber, I guess I might be considered in some small way a direct competitor with Rooster Teeth in their production of their content, although I don't think my content quality-wise anywhere compares. Ruby is free to play and it has in-app purchases, so but if it's a deck builder game, I don't know what those in-app purchases could be other than cosmetics, unless you have to purchase expansions. But yeah, that's something I think that is worth mentioning, and it came out I believe yesterday. TechRaptor has an article, Ruby deck builder game launches today. It's odd that it's not in early access. It's also on Android and iOS, so it is already making leaps and bounds smarter moves than Valve and Artifact did, because the fact that you can't play Artifact on a cell phone is just ridiculous. Do that. And I guess track. And I guess we'll take this. Deal 3 Dominion and summon a wolf. Let's see. I'll skip the rest of these. Valentine's Day happened, of course, and not a lot to say really about that. Other than if I had my way and YouTube wasn't so persnickety about being family friendly, I would have played an adult romance dating simulator game and covered it. That is, of course, also if I had time, which is not true. I certainly didn't have time to do all that.
The eternal hunt has begun.
Let's see. Trap Demon Knight card, target poisonous.
Job's done.
Gamatsu has the same article. Catherine Full Body launches September 3rd in the Americas and Europe. available in launch and Heart's Desire edition.
I'm almost out of cards.
Again, I don't think I have the guidelines on how much you can actually stream there for that version. TechRaptor has an article, Sonic Mania developer co-founds new studio called Evening Star.
Out of cards.
So that'll be interesting to see what games he makes. There's a game out called the Text Forcist that has been getting a lot of hype, at least from TechRaptor. And then they came out with this article. The Text Forcist is a game I really want to enjoy but can't. Let's see. It's like a text-based game. Text-based RPG style game of some sort. Secrets. Deal 3 damage, summon a 5/5 Devil Storm. This. That. And that.
Job's done.
And end the turn. But they don't have an actual review here for this game, so even though they're saying it's something they want to enjoy and they can't, they didn't bother to actually write a review, so that's useless. OpenCritic, however, has Crackdown 3's review. They give it a weak tag, and top critic average is 62%, and 18% of critics recommend it based on 59 critic reviews. The repetitive gameplay, dull narrative, and no multiplayer depth. It's a real shame, in my opinion. Like, I would have liked to see it succeed, and the Crackdown series perhaps pushed to continue to make a whole nother trilogy of games that took it to bigger and better places. Gamma Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Obsidian Entertainment is hiring a sign designer. This is in Irvine, California. What is Obsidian Entertainment, though? What have they made? Yeah, they don't even point out what they made. I think Obsidian may have made one of the Skyrim games, but I'm not sure. This and that and that and that. He's got like Mechathune or something here, and he's gonna win, I bet. OpenCritic also has Far Cry New Dawn. Let's go back to the summary though. Okay. Can I do anything to save this? All I can really do is this and just hope.
I'm all out of cards.
Like, the only thing I could really do is potentially like, I'm just hurting myself. Yeah. I'll be darned, the freezing trap really worked. Interesting. Alright. So we've got over here from OpenCritic, and I'm not going to particularly show all of OpenCritic's reviews always, but Far Cry New Dawn, it has a fair rating. The top critic average is 74%, which is an average game. 53% of people recommend it based on 81 critic reviews. So yeah, it seems like it's a pretty fair game. Mediocre, just average, nothing great or amazing there. Let me just quickly go through the rest of this news, and then we'll wrap up the stream. We have GameIndustry.biz has an article. Game Workers Unite sparks campaign to fire Activision Blizzard CEO following mass layoffs. We, the workers of Activision and their friends have had enough. Join us in saying it's time to #fire Bobby Kotick, says the advocacy group. Now, how do you fire a CEO? You can put pressure out there and make them quit, or you can gain a controlling share and vote during a shareholders meeting, but you would have to get a controlling share of the company to vote yay on firing him, which the shareholders are as much the problem as Bobby Kotick is. So that's not likely to happen, and there might be some kind of poison pill strategies out there to even stop the shareholders from basically doing a hostile takeover like that. Next we have from Gamatsu, Hollow Knight Silksong announced for the Switch and PC. So I'm not sure I was really ever going to play Hollow Knight, but now there is a sequel to the 2017 game, Metroidvania game. So is there a Switch link, or has it just been announced so far? Yeah, it's just been announced. A release date hasn't been come out yet, so that might give me a reason to play Hollow Knight if I own it, which I'm not sure I do. Let's see. Gamatsu has another article. Square Enix undecided on whether the Vanilla Dragon's Quest 11 will receive a definitive edition content. There's still hope yet for PlayStation 4 and PC users. I think the answer from Square Enix probably is going to be no, though. Which is just, I guess, more of a reason not to trust Square Enix and not to pre-order and not to buy the original versions of a lot of games. It's sadly really getting to the point where you cannot buy the original version of a game that you really, really want to play because you just know if it's a AAA game, it's probably going to come out with a new version, a definitive edition, and that definitive edition very possibly will have content or patches or something that makes it, where's my cursor, makes it unrealistic. Man, I still have a lot of pages and stuff. TechRaptor has this article. You can now listen to over 50 albums of Capcom music on Spotify. It seems like it's all in Japanese as far as the labeling and titling, so maybe you'd have to struggle a little bit there. I don't really know the value of most video game music. It tends not to be something that you would really want to listen to outside of the game, or anything that's particularly interesting to listen to. In the first place, it's usually designed to be pretty repetitive and just like let's see. It's usually designed to be pretty forgettable stuff. Gamma Sutra has an article. Darksiders 3 already has made its money back. Where am I? Here we go. Darksiders 3 has already made back its development and marketing spend, which is to say it's completely profitable, I would say, at this point, unless advertising and marketing are different things. So I guess that means even if Darksiders 3 wasn't artistically the most interesting sequel in the trilogy, there's really no reason for there not to be the fourth game in that quadrilogy to just finish it up. And they did put out that patch to make the gameplay a little bit less like Dark Souls, which I think is a good idea too. So I'm still willing to play Darksiders 3. I'm just not willing to pay a lot of money to play Darksiders 3. Let's see. Next we have a game from Gamatsu. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy for consoles and PC, second trailer, Japanese TV spot. So yeah, the Phoenix Wright games are coming to PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. Which, it's been a long time. A lot of these games are coming to PC, but they're coming so late that it's questionable, certainly. It's like, hey, is this really just too little too late? Hellblade: Senua Sacrifice is coming to the Switch this spring. That's on Gamatsu. There's not really much more to say there. It probably won't look that good. Dead by Daylight coming to the Switch this fall. Again, probably won't run that well. There was a YouTube thing where The Verge, I believe, copyright struck somebody who made a video making fun of The Verge. Maybe there was a legitimate claim there, maybe it wasn't. It's certainly bad PR for The Verge, though. That's more stuff we can talk about later. I guess there's just going to be some Nintendo Direct stuff that we have to talk about on Monday, because we're like, these games, nothing at the Nintendo Direct was actually coming out anytime soon. So yeah, we'll cover more of the Nintendo Direct stuff. Don't wait for me if you must have that information, but we've just run short on time. Jeez. Here we have one that's probably a smaller story. GameIndustry.biz, WWE Hall of Famer sues Activision for character copyright infringement. Booker T. Huffman claims Black Ops 4 character is too similar to his own comic book hero. Apparently Booker T at some point had a comic book hero character. Interesting. It's a character stolen, a character named G.I. Bro that he created for 2 comic books and is portrayed at various events. Interesting idea. Well, if the WWE is behind and funding that lawsuit, that could go far, certainly. And I'm just control tabbing through so many pages. I've got so many pages open. I'm gonna have to go through a lot of these games that came out on Steam and just put them on the follow list if they look good, or keep them if they look good, and I'll just get rid of the ones that are total garbage, because there's not a lot of reason to show off the total garbage other than to say, hey, there is still a prevalence of total garbage, of a lot of garbage games coming out on Steam. Yeah. See, I just hit a point where I left a bunch of games open Wednesday, and so we did not see any of the games that came out on Wednesday either. So this is just a bad week in general. And that got me to the Humble Bundle store after control tabbing a lot. There's nothing on the Humble Bundle store that needs to be talked about. And I seriously doubt that there is any new news on Twitter. So let's not go through that at all. As for people just wanting to see Hearthstone, they've not been able to see any Hearthstone for a while now. And yeah, we went at least 30 minutes over an hour at least. And that's not a big deal. So that's going to be it for this stream and this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.